Welcome everyone to a wonderful, wonderful podcast, and I hope that you're enjoying your November. I know that the year's almost done, and December is almost here, and Christmas is around the corner again. I can't believe it. So I hope you all have a wonderful time with your family. Today we have someone very, very special. It's amazing. I'm so happy that we're able to get him on the podcast. We have Dr. Louis Anthony DeLisle, I think.
No, DeLise.
DeLise, yes. So
DeLise.
Dr. Louis Anthony DeLise. Now, we have the honor of speaking with a true luminary in the world of music. And from his earliest days in Philadelphia and rural Bucks County, Louis has been immersed in sound, rhythm, and creativity. What began as a young boy experimenting on a family spinet piano and studying jazz drumming evolved in a lifelong pursuit of musical excellence. His journey is a testament to passion, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to art of composition. Louis is not only a celebrated composer, but a arranger, but also a visionary who has left an indelible mark across multiple genres. His debut album, Natural Light, soared to the top 10 on the Zone Music Reporter charts and earned nominations for Best Neoclassical Album and Best New Artist, beyond his solo work, of course. Louis has collaborated with some of the most iconic names in music. You ready for this, everyone? Tony Bennett, Patti LaBelle, Luciano Pavarotti, Diana Ross, and many more. This is incredible. His artistry has graced Grammy-winning albums, and his arrangements have appeared alongside performances by legends like Carlos Santana, we know him from Smooth, and Kanye West. Few musicians can claim such a rich and diverse legacy, but Dr. Louis DeLise is more than his accolades. He is an educator, mentor, and author and professional songwriter, a definitive guide for aspiring musicians, and his influence extends from the concert stage to the classroom, shaping the next generation of artists through master classes and coaching. Today, we'll explore the story behind the music, the inspirations, challenges, and philosophies that have guided his remarkable career. Join us as we speak to Dr. Louis DeLise, a man whose music continues to resonate across time and genres. Thank you for being with us today. I guess we're going to call you Louis, I think, or
That
Dr.
would be that would be terrific. I'd be honored. What a fantastic introduction, Chris. I hope I can live up to that. My goodness.
Thank you so much for being here. It's really awesome to be able to speak to you. I'm
Pleasure.
so happy. So happy. So, Louis, let's start at the beginning. Now, what was it like growing up in rural Bucks County, and how did that environment shape your musical identity?
Wow. Well, so growing up there was terrific. It was truly rural, lots of farms and open fields and that kind of thing, and a lot of kind of fallowed fields too, with nothing, just grass and weeds and things. So, and streams and woods that I would go exploring in, and that was neat. Lots of solitary time, riding my bicycle around on the roads, and as I said, walking through the woods and the streams and all. So it was very it was a lovely way to grow up. I think it was a terrific place to be, and this was at a time when things were different than they are now. Let's just say. Um, how did that influence my music? Well, I don't know. Um, that's something I don't think I've ever thought of, Chris. So that would be a wonderful question. Um, I don't know. I'm sure that to some extent, when one is composing, and you know this from your creative efforts, when one is composing, you're in your own head, you're in your own space, as they say, and I think I practiced that a lot as a kid. just being out on my own and roaming around, because those were the days when mom could say, okay, go out and play. Not go out and play in traffic, but go out and play. And you'd be gone for half the day, and then you'd come back when you were hungry or something. So perhaps that was a good warm up for the kind of solitary pursuit that composition and writing of any kind is. So I think maybe that's probably the best way that I was influenced by that upbringing.
Did you have a good relationship with your parents who encouraged you that way?
Yeah, actually, yes. We were a musical family of sorts. My older brother played in the school bands and worked as a semi-professional musician, and played with bands and things as a teenager and into his early adulthood. I had an uncle who was a good musician who traveled with some jazz bands out of Philadelphia, who worked with several luminaries there, and a couple other, extended family, cousin who was a jazz pianist who worked with Woody Herman's bands and that kind of thing. So the family kind of knew about music. We didn't know, they didn't know, my folks didn't know anything about the music business, really. I mean, they were first generation American citizens. Their parents had come from Europe, from Italy specifically. And, they were hardworking folks. They knew about work, grew up through the Depression and all that. So they knew about hard work. They really didn't understand precisely what it was working musicians did, but they never discouraged me. They always encouraged me to do what I wanted to do and to strive to be good at it. So yeah, they were encouraging, and certainly they funded music lessons and carted me around different places to play, to perform when I was a kid. So yeah, I would say in general they were encouraging. I don't think they ever said anything about don't do this. They never said don't do this. Yeah, so yeah, pretty much encouraging. And then when I went to music school, to the university, that was a big deal for them, a real big deal. I was really the first in my family to graduate from university. So they were very proud of that.
Yeah, Louis, you taught yourself piano by making up tunes and reading fake books. Now, what did those early experiments teach you about creativity?
Well, yeah, my older brother, who I mentioned, had these what musicians call fake books, as you know, which are really anthologies of pop tunes of the previous generation, the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, into the 60s and 70s. And they're melodies with chord symbols. So when one reads through those, and yeah, I taught myself to do that. My drum teacher showed me some very basic chords at the piano, and then I kind of looked at the fake book, which had this chart at the beginning with all these different chord symbols and the notes that were contained in those chords. So I would read through, and I could kind of plunk out the melody, and what I couldn't read I could hear, and then I would figure out the chords that were in the symbols above this is the music, right? I use my hands, I'm sorry. But I would figure out what were the members of each of those chords, and eventually was able to do that. I think I answered your question.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what the most amazing thing is when not just Shakespearean actors, but all opera singers are able to go out and just be able to sing in Italian and just remember everything. But 10 years from now, do you think they still like? Do you still remember the songs that you sang 20 years ago?
I remember. Well, okay, I'll answer that two ways. First of all, I do remember not the songs that I sang. I was never really a singer, although I've sung in different situations, but I've never tried to put myself forward as a singer, as you know, a singer like you. I'm a functional singer. You know, if I have to demonstrate something to an orchestra, I can sing it, and they get the idea. Between laughter, they get the idea. Um, so I don't remember songs that I sang as a kid because I didn't really sing, but I do remember songs that I made. Some of the songs I made up, and I can play them to this day, and very occasionally, you know, might try to plunk one or two of them out. So there's that. The other thing is, I made an effort very early on to, and this is going to sound funny, but to not memorize other people's music, because I found that that was injurious to what I was trying to do, to compose. A funny, not funny story. I was working on an album of instrumental music for a what is called a production music library. This is like background music that people, excuse me, people at radio stations and film producers and such use. And I had to write, I don't know, 30 different musical arrangements for this project. And I have this habit of listening to the radio a lot, but not listening to music, listening to talk radio. Just somehow it kind of clears my mind and it helps me keep up with what's going on in the world. So I used to listen while I was shaving in the morning. I used to listen to this news station from Philadelphia, KYW News. And, you know, I'm shaving and listening and not really paying attention. So I go to this session, I record this thing with an orchestra. I mean, like 25 musicians in the studio, and I'm conducting and blah, blah, blah. And the next day I go home, and the next morning I'm doing my same routine. I'm shaving and listening to the radio station, and I hear the background music on this commercial, and I go, oh, I just copped the music on the background music on this commercial, sort of, kind of. I mean, it wasn't note for note the same, but I unintentionally borrowed, to be euphemistic, borrowed some of the texture of this piece into this piece that I wrote for this library. It was just very, very funny. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't close enough that anybody would get in trouble or that I would get in trouble for, you know, plagiarism or something. But, you know, it was, to me, it sounded a lot like what I came up with.
When you what so when did you realize music wasn't just a hobby but your calling? Was there a defining moment?
Well, I never thought of it as a hobby. It just kind of always was. It's just always what I did. There was never any question in my mind about what I was going to do. I mean, I remember as a little boy watching television in coming out of Philadelphia, and there was a fellow on there named Larry Ferrari who had this radio show or television program. It must have been like 15 minutes or something every week or so, and he would come on and play organ. And I can remember very distinctly thinking, I want to do that. You know, and I was a kid. I was maybe 6 years old or something, but just, you know, it's just like, that's what I'm doing. So it was never a hobby.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's a little bit crazy too.
Mm.
I mean, really, but I don't know. I mean, maybe that's that's at least what I had to do. I don't know about anybody else, but you know, that's what it was. So.
Wow. Lewis, you studied jazz drumming and later composition. Now, how
Right.
did those two disciplines influence each other in your work today?
Well, terrific question, Chris. Really, it influences the drumming, and the jazz drumming in particular influences my composing, in that I often hear those rhythms and apply those rhythms to the melodic and harmonic stuff, the melodic stuff I'm writing. So those melodies oftentimes end up being very angular. This is when I'm working on what I call concert music.
Mm.
Uh, when I'm creating concert music, those pieces end up being very angular and rhythmic sometimes, and that is a direct influence. I won't say jazz, because jazz has other issues about it as a term, but at least those kinds of drumming influences into my uh, concert music composition. So yeah, it influences a lot.
Yeah, your music is fascinating. Louis, where do your ideas for compositions and songs come from? Like, is it emotion, environment, or something else?
Hmm. Well, you know, um, the famous American composer Aaron Copland said something like, uh, composers don't really work on inspiration. They get up in the morning, and if they feel like composing, they do. So, and then the other corollary, or the other part of that is, um, and I'll tie this together, I promise.
Mhm.
Um, I did play a series of concerts with where I was a support musician for an orchestra that accompanied the famous lyricist Sammy Kahn, who wrote
Wow.
many great classics. Oops, there goes another rubber tree plant, and a whole lot of other songs I can't remember. But he said that he's often asked. He was primarily a lyricist, and he was often asked which comes first, the music or the lyric, and his reply was the phone call. And for me, that's often been the case too. So what I mean by that is, um, I will have an assignment to work on,
Hmm.
to compose for. For instance, someone commissions me to write a piece for them, for their instrument as a solo, or I'm hired to compose a musical arrangement for a singer or what have you. So I have the call, I have the assignment, and now the impetus, when I get up in the morning, is, do you want do you want to do this work or not? And I have a pretty good work ethic from those folks I mentioned, who were first generation American citizens who worked all the time. So I look at my work, and my work is pretty cushy compared to the stuff they did. So I generally get up, and I want to write, and if I have an assignment, then that's the impetus to get cooking on that. And then when I don't have an assignment from the outside, if I
Mhm.
don't have a commission, I will make up my own assignment. So, you know, gee, I really like to write a set of, you name it, a set of pieces for solo flute. Okay, well, what's that going to sound like? Okay, well, I kind of try to define the parameters of what that piece is going to be. Okay, it's going to be about this long, in time, and it's going to be for flute and some other instrument. Oh, let's see. How about flute and harp? That goes well together. Uh, and then I think too, very practically, about what do I think I can get played? I can get performed. Well, flute and harp gets played a lot. So that's a good idea. So so that it kind of goes from there, and I get working on it. Where do the musical ideas come from? I don't know. We hear things, and make them up, and then
Mm.
you know uh, figure out what we're hearing and write them down. there are some people who talk about something called intertextuality, where I'm going to sound like a professor now, gee whiz,
Okay.
but intertextuality, which is this concept that this Italian philosopher Umberto Eco talks about, where a piece of art talks to another piece of art. A book talks to another book. Well, they don't literally talk, but they influence. So one piece of music can influence a new piece of music. So for instance, oftentimes if I am going to compose something from scratch, and by the way, scratch is hard to find, Chris.
Mm.
Sorry. Uh, I've worked with too many comedians. But if I'm going to compose a brand new piece of music, I will sometimes think, well, I would kind of like it to do this kind of thing, have this kind of movement, or make these kinds of gestures that I hear in this other piece that either that I wrote or someone
Mm-hmm.
else wrote. So that in that way, one piece of art talks to a new piece of art. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
One artist to another.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I loved your album Natural Light. Now that was nominated for major awards. Now, what inspired that project and what story were you trying to tell through it?
Oh gosh. Well, you use the word story, and that's a good word for music. I think for my music anyway. Um, I often think of those pieces as short stories,
Mm-hmm.
or as akin to short stories. So they each kind of have. I think there are 11 different compositions on that album. I think they are all kind of different and tell different stories. Um, some of them I can't really talk about because I'll cry, and you don't want to see me cry. It's a messy thing. But one of the pieces is called American Darkness, and I'll let you sort that one out as a Canadian. You'll probably figure it out quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but and there's a piece on there on that particular album um, called Autumn something or other. The title's not coming to me, but it has to do with thinking about autumn and this time of year that we're going through right now, and
Mm-hmm.
what does that conjure up in terms of my emotions. So it's that kind of thinking, and at least one of the pieces is a kind of a sad piece about a deceased family member.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
reflective kind of thing.
Well, my dad passed almost 25 years ago, and I wrote a an Italian opera about my father, and
Oh
I want
wow.
I want to find someone to sing it who's I believe that songs should be sung about loss to people who have suffered loss. Like I wouldn't get someone to sing a song that was written for some passing of a father or brother, whatever, someone who has never suffered loss. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they wouldn't be able to feel it.
Yeah.
Only when they feel a loss would they.
Yeah, and my I guess it was my second album, which is called "A Gift of Moments," uh, comes out of that kind of loss. A friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and I were speaking, and she had lost her husband.
Mm,
I'm going to I don't remember exactly, but several years before, and she was, of course, still mourning this loss of this very special person. And in the course of our conversation, she said she had gifts of moments with this
mm,
gentleman. And that just kind of locked in my head. I have goosebumps right now talking to you about this. But somehow that filtered through all of the loss that I've felt over the years, and we all have it. And that became a piece of music called A Gift of Moments, and was um, reflective of or dedicated to this particular colleague, and and the loss that she was still uh,
Yeah, like
feeling.
yeah, yeah. A song is about loss. Like one of them, I don't know if you're familiar with a group called Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
Um, Dan Reynolds, the lead singer, wrote a song called "Wrecked," and he wrote that because his brother's wife, his sister-in-law, he was so close to, she passed away of cancer. So he
Mm.
wrote the song "Wrecked," and when he sings, you can feel the depth of emotion and sorrow. And I tried to sing a cover of it. I'm like, no, I don't feel that, so I'm not going to sing it. So it's different when you suffer a loss, and then like when your friend lost her husband. If she were to write a song, I think she would be the only one that could sing something like that, unless someone else lost their husband or wife,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Well, and as performers, you as a singer, and me as a composer, as a pianist, um, I think what we do too is to interpret that loss through music and convey what we're feeling, that what we remember, to whomever is listening, to to the audience, and in some way, I think. I mean, I think that's part of our job. It's part of what we're supposed to do.
mm,
But I think that is certainly one of the services we provide. As creative artists, as performers, one of the services we provide is to help people experience their emotions more deeply, perhaps, maybe bring voice, I guess, literally and figuratively, give voice to their emotions, because not everybody is like us able to, wear our emotions on our sleeve, I guess. Um, I don't know. Does that sort of make sense, I think.
yeah, like talking about natural light again, and then you have a
Yeah.
gift of moments in the before times. Um, do you approach writing for yourself differently than writing for other artists?
Well, yeah. I mean, right off the bat, the other artist for whom I'm writing is giving me that assignment, and describing the parameters of that assignment. I want this. I want it to be for symphony orchestra, or it has to
Mm,
be, blah blah blah, whatever it is. For myself, I approach it differently in that I make up my own rules, if you will, my rules for the composition.
mm,
The piece will do this, you know and sometimes, honestly, sometimes the music doesn't really cooperate. It doesn't listen to you. It has a mind of its own. Sometimes it goes off in a different direction,
mm.
and you either have to fight it or follow it. And one is probably smarter to follow it and support it and see where it goes. See where the music takes you.
I totally agree with you. And then
Yeah.
I've spoken to other artists, and they said they got a lot of their inspiration just by walking outside, looking at the trees, looking at the birds, and
Yeah.
whatever, looking at life, feeling
Yeah.
great, and say, "Okay, I have something now." Now, how do you handle creative blocks? What's your process for reigniting inspiration?
I go do something else. I take a walk. I take a drive in the car. I go do something physical. I run the vacuum cleaner. I know that sounds glorious, but do something else, something physical that's not music. And it's amazing how that does help, because somehow that creative stuff we do gets processed back here. And
Mhm.
even when we're not thinking about it up here, in front of mind, it's cooking in the back there someplace, and you just let it go. You can't really force that. You can't really force. I mean, sure, I could sit down, and if you said, "Hey, DeLise, write something for me. You have 5 minutes, go." Which is what they did in music school, by the way.
Mm.
you know, but you do something, but it's not going to sound. I don't think, in general, it's not going to sound like music that was created in some kind of a flow state, and when you were,
Mhm.
when your mind was free to meander and, you know, goof around. Really, a lot of it has to do with a sense of play. You know, I said goof around, but I don't mean goof
Yeah.
around. I mean just, kind of a spirit of kind of playing with stuff. Because I think that's what we do. We play with sounds to some extent. You know.
Yeah. Like whether you're using Pro Tools or you're using Cubase or any of those, and Suno and Udio, if you know what those are. I know I shouldn't be asking you this question, but what do you think of AI in music? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think first of all it's a misnomer. It's not really AI music. It's something else. It's something that was created by a computer. Created. It was assembled by a computer. Because remember what is going on there at a very high level and at a very rapid speed. What's going on is that a machine is assembling disparate parts from many, 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 many compositions, some of which maybe I wrote, who knows? And, the machine is picking and choosing and pasting together this and that and the other thing. And somehow, voila, they have this so called piece of music. It's not really a piece of music, it's something that is imitating a piece of music. It's not AI
Mm.
music. It's what is it? Advanced artificial intelligence. That's
Artificial
what
intelligence, yeah.
I forgot what it stood for there. For
Mhm.
my AI just went south. It's imitating what we do. Other than that, what do I feel about it? It doesn't affect me really. I mean, I don't care. I'm still going to write music because that's what I do. Whether anybody listens to it, whether it makes $10 or $10 million, it not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's what I do. So in that sense, AI doesn't really concern me. I don't care about it. As far as the other things you mentioned, Nuendo and Digital Performer and that kind of thing, those are tools. Those are tools like a piano. A piano's a tool. Um, it's a more rudimentary kind of tool than Digital Performer or Pro Tools, but it's a tool nevertheless. We use tools. My father used to use a screwdriver and a hammer and that kind of thing to wire up houses. I use a piano as my tool. AI. I'm sure AI could be a valuable tool, but probably not for me. What I do, I don't know if the word is object, but I kind of there's been a vast democratization of the music creating world, of the music industry over the past 10, 15, 20 years with the advent of the mini computer, the small personal computer, and with these programs, these digital recording programs. Somebody can record something that sounds very, very professional in their home, as I do. I have I have my home studio. Um, so the idea of creating recordings has been democratized. That the cost of putting together, of buying those various components to make a recording studio has come way, way down. When I started back in the olden days of the 1970s, when I started in the recording industry, one had to, well, studios were investing $100,000 in a control board, in a mixer, 60, $70,000 for a multi-track tape machine, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't have to happen. It still happens. There are still big studios, thank goodness, but many of us have these little studios that certainly didn't cost anything like that. So there's been this vast democratization of recording. What I object to with AI created stuff that sounds like music
Mhm.
is that anybody can do it if they can push a couple buttons on a computer. You know, that is, to me, that's akin to punching a couple buttons on a radio, or, you know, so, you know, what, some kind of device that reproduces sound, a CD player. You remember those CD players? Um, you know,
8-track tapes.
yeah, right, whatever. So it's akin to me. It's akin to that. It's, you know, my brother-in-law getting an AI program and feeding it some lyrics that could make no sense or make great sense. What, it doesn't matter, and push a button and say, I want it to sound like Brandy Carlisle, and I want it to be in 3/4, and I want it to be in B flat. Well, they don't even get that sophisticated. But, you know, boom, here you go. Here's your thing that almost sounds like music. Okay. I mean, I could do that by pushing a button and you know, choosing something on Spotify. Just that to me, that's the same thing. It's not creative. It's not a. Anyway, enough of that.
No, I
Start,
understand that.
I'm going to start breaking things now, Chris. I'm going to get aggravated now about AI. Doggone it.
Are you familiar with Rick Beato?
Of
He's
course.
yeah.
Yes.
So he created Sadie Winters and fed lyrics into the Suno or Udio, whatever AI, and came up with this song called "Walking Away." And it's not only billions of streams, but he loved it. And he doesn't usually like AI music, and he loves it.
Yeah.
And so, and I know you said AI steals from other people. What's the difference between an AI stealing from other musicians and creating a song than using Pro Tools and Cubase and all those others that have already riffs in them that you can use and manipulate? Same thing, you're stealing.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm not at all conversant with those particular programs because I honestly have never used them. So I don't know. That's not even part of my repertoire of things that I ever
Mm.
think about. So thank you for mentioning that. I didn't remember that people do that. You know, look, it's a crutch. It's not for me. People are going to do it. If Beato loves the AI piece that he created, God bless him. That's great. Good for him. You know, I have my I forget if it was one of my sons or my nephew or somebody shared a video, or rather an audio recording of some band playing this extremely intricate, very, what I call very hip kind of horn band, rock and roll, jazz/jazz kind of thing. You know, it was like Earth, Wind, and Fire meets Blood, Sweat, and Tears meets Chicago would want to sound like this if they could. Uh, it was great, and the singer was cooking, and it was really good. And then the kids told me it was AI generated. Well, I still liked it. It was great. Can I tell you? It's not for me, but you know, there you go. I think, you know, this is, people talk about disrupting, you know, industries and products or programs disrupting things. This is certainly going to upend, not disrupt, but certainly going to upend the music industry. I mean, if Beato's making 150,000 streams off of some nonsense that he created with AI in 5 minutes, well, good for him. But, you know, it's just going to. I forget the number of uploads nowadays of pieces being created by AI. It's like several hundred a minute or something silly like that. And it's going to, I mean, look, Spotify and Pandora and all the rest are shamefully delinquent in how little they pay creative musicians for their efforts. I mean,
Mm.
a single stream on Spotify pays about something like 0.003 American
Mm.
cents. Well, I mean, okay,
Wow.
here are all these young people making music and posting it, and it's really good, and their blood and their sweat and their tears and everything else is in this, and they're getting 0.003 cents for their stream. And
Mm.
now here comes along 250 new tracks made by this AI machine monster, and Joe Sixpack out there listening to this stuff doesn't know the difference. And if it's not labeled as being this was mechanically generated by AI,
Mhm.
and this other stuff is actually created by human beings, um, I don't know. It's like some kind of different ball game. It's like the ball game isn't even happening anymore.
I
It's like
know. That's true.
it's something else.
That's
I don't.
true.
So I think all of what I just said in the past 5 minutes of this long answer, I think all of it means A, I don't know. B, not that I don't care, but C, maybe it doesn't affect me. And there's no way you're going to stop it now, man. That genie is out of the bottle. The only
Mm.
thing I would like to see is perhaps stuff labeled so that people could make choices.
Yeah.
Ah,
I understand that.
progress.
Yeah. I really loved like you worked with legends like Patti LaBelle and Tony
Yeah,
Bennett, even Luciano Pavarotti.
yeah,
So
Luciano.
tell me more about that. Like, what's the most memorable lesson you've learned from collaborating with such icons? Like,
Well,
what is it like? What were they like?
yeah. Well, first of all, let me be very clear. There's a delineation between being a support musician in playing in an orchestra accompanying Luciano Pavarotti or
Mhm.
Tony Bennett or one of those people, Lou Rawls, Tom Jones,
Wow,
Diana
nice.
Ross. But that's you're a hired hand. You're playing in an orchestra. You're relatively anonymous.
Hmm.
Maybe you get listed in the program, maybe you don't.
Mm.
And you're working for them. You're reading the music that they give you to read, and you're playing it to the best of your ability, and it better be pretty good. Otherwise you don't get called for the next job. So that's I call that being a support musician. Then there's composing, writing songs or writing musical arrangements and
Hmm.
conducting on recording sessions for somebody like William DeVaughn, who had a few number one records, and Patti LaBelle
Hmm.
and Hailstorm and Peter Nero and those folks. Um, you know, Writing for them is, I mean, first of all, it was like an amazing gift to be
Hmm.
given to have those assignments. Here, write something for this icon, Patti LaBelle. Oh my God,
Wow.
are you kidding? That's what a treat. But in doing that, then in working on that project, then I'm listening to what it is she's done over the years, and trying to kind of have whatever I create kind of fit into that mold and into that continuum of her stuff, of her repertoire. And the same thing with every any of the other people, with Bunny Sigler or Peter Nero. For Peter, it was writing musical arrangements for a symphony orchestra
Hmm.
that he was conducting in Philadelphia. At that time, it was called the Peter Nero and the Philly Pops. Um, so, so in that case, you're kind of fitting into. You're definitely trying to fit into their mold of what of
Mm.
what they've done. Yeah. So
Wow, can't believe that. Tony Bennett, Patti LaBelle.
yeah.
Oh, like Luciano Pavarotti. Did you ever get a chance to meet him?
Well, I did actually.
Nice.
So that's a funny story. I was working for about 10 years I worked, coming up. This is, a long time ago. Um, I was maybe in my 30s, and I was working with the opera company in Philadelphia as a support musician and playing in the pit, accompanying operas. And we would do these shows with Beverly Sills, and Luciano came in and did a couple of these. And my parents were big Luciano Pavarotti fans, right? And they would come to the opera and sit up in a booth, in one of the booths in the balcony. And I had gotten them, I think it was the best of Pavarotti or something like that, like a 3 or 4 album set in a box. And I brought it with me into the pit, and I thought, okay, as soon as the curtain comes down, I'm going to hightail it out of the pit. I'm going to run up the steps. I'm going to run across the backstage into what was called the Ormandy room, where I knew I had found out that Mr. Pavarotti was going to be receiving guests. And I ran up there carrying this record, and I thought, I'm gonna get him to autograph it for my folks. And I got to the door at the Ormandy room, and I don't remember if I actually knocked or not, but I opened
Mm.
the door, and there was Maestro Pavarotti on the other end of the room. And he was a big man. I don't know if you ever really got to see him, but he was a physically
Hmm.
big dude, intimidating looking dude. And I'm not, I'm like this 5'8" guy on a good day. I'm 5'8". And I kind of opened the door, and he was startled. I startled him. Here I am. Oh, Maestro. And I told him what I wanted, and he was very generous. He was very kind. He wrote
Nice.
a nice little inscription to Concetta and Miguel.
Mm.
So I met him that way. That was about it. But the interesting thing with when one does those kind of support musician gigs, we usually don't get to interact with the art with the star very often. Under very few circumstances did I ever really, you know. I think
Mhm.
when I worked with Dom DeLuise, I got a chance to talk to him because he
Wow.
he came to a rehearsal.
I loved him. He was a great actor.
He was wonderful. Yeah, he was very generous, and I had a conversation with him. I told him that people often got my name confused with his because DeLise and DeLuise is very
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
And he was very generous. Asked me where my folks came from and blah blah blah. It was terrific. So and
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Well, you must have met a lot of celebrities and singers in your life. That's amazing.
a few, and Patti, working with Patti LaBelle, Miss Patti as she calls herself. No, she's a trip. She's funny, and she's very generous, very kind, and it was a very nice, very warm experience working with her. She's a real, very sweet person. So
Wow. So
very, very fortunate.
that's awesome. So arranging and conducting for Grammy-winning artists is no small feat, Lewis. So how do you balance your artistic voice with theirs?
Oh well, um, theoretically, I'm being hired because they've heard something I did that they liked, so they like my artistic voice. So I'm trying to kind of shape what I hear and the way I hear things to comport with what, as I mentioned earlier, to comport with what they've already done. But it still gives me an opportunity to
Mm.
express myself. You know.
That is wow.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Dynamite.
Very cool.
Dynamite. Yeah.
Very cool opportunity, Chris. It's all about that.
So looking back, Lewis, so which
Yes.
project challenged you the most and why?
Oh gosh, which project challenged me the most and why? Well, I don't know. Um, I really don't know. I mean, they're all different. Each. This is going to sound like I'm treading water here or something, but to a great extent, that they're all. I don't want to say they're equally challenging, but they're all. Each project has its some kind of consideration about it. They're all different, but they're all the same in some way. That's not a very good answer, and I don't know that I have a better one. I'm sorry.
Hmm. You do your best, but yeah, but arranging conducting for Grammy-winning artists is usually no small feat because I've spoken to a few conductors and
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you have to be like, and Andre Rieu, I don't know how he's able to be a violinist and conduct at the same. Like, that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Well, and historically, that's a position that violinists have had. I mean, that's originally chamber orchestras or orchestras were led by the first violinist who would kind of nod and beat time or whatever. So he's really kind of going back to an old tradition. But yeah, conducting's a gas. I like conducting a lot. I like conducting in the studio. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And
It's cool.
what Louis, your work spans pop, jazz, classical, and beyond. So,
Yeah,
what's the secret to adapting across genres without losing authenticity?
having 5 children to feed.
Oh, five. Wow.
Well, yeah, three actually to begin with, but that's another story. But
Wow.
no, I'm being glib. I have a very varied musical interest, and I always have had. I've always listened to lots of different kinds of music, and as I mentioned earlier, I think music informs other music. Um, so like the old song says, it's all rock and roll to me, and I like it.
Billy Joel's, yeah, Billy Joel's
Yeah,
song. It's all
yeah,
rock and roll to me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all. I am very interested in lots of different kinds of music. Nowadays I'm mostly writing chamber music
Mhm.
for publication, and I'm very fortunate that gets played by musicians
Mm.
around the world, and that's neat. It's a different kind of work, a different kind of writing than writing for pop records, but it's in some sense it's all rock and roll to me. In some senses, it's the same. It's just a continuum of stuff. It's just, again, I don't know that I'm giving you a great answer, Chris, but that's
Hey, do your
that's the
best. I
reality, man.
just love hearing from you because you have years and years of experience in the music
Well,
field,
don't make me sound too old, Chris. No,
and
I'm only 28. I mean, it's just this. There's been a lot of pressure. Yeah.
yeah, that's fun. So I want to talk about your book you wrote, The Professional Songwriter. Now, what's the single
Yeah.
most important principle you believe every songwriter should understand?
Oh, um, to be honest and true to yourself.
Mm.
Um, to express yourself honestly. And if you don't do that, then you really don't have anything. So that's probably it, I think. Yeah.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Lewis, how do you define success as an artist today? Has that definition changed over time?
How do I describe success? Well, um, I think we each describe success um, differently, and maybe even each of us describes success differently at different times in our life, and in different ways. Certainly the obvious thing of making a living or making much more than a living is a lot of people's idea of success. Has
Mhm.
not particularly ever been mine. Um, I think somebody I saw on what I call faceplant. I saw on Facebook a week or so ago that somebody posted a program where they performed several of my pieces, and they were in the UK,
Mm.
and I'm here in US in New Jersey, and boy, I thought that was really cool. That was really neat that here were these people who I didn't know. They didn't know me, but they had apparently had purchased a set of my music, and they were performing it. And I thought, wow, man, that's
Wow.
about as good as it gets. Now that's not a financial good as it gets, but it's something very special. That they liked my music, and they learned it, and they put time into it, and they performed it. So it's neat. It's a really neat thing to touch people in those ways. So that's
Why? Yeah. Why do you suppose many artists are selling their catalog, like Sting, Bruce Springsteen? Are they because they don't have any money, or they just want more money, or what?
um I honestly don't understand the business behind that, but I'm sure it's a business decision that I don't know. I mean, the honest answer is I don't know. I'm guessing that there might be something to the heredity uh, issue. That maybe they don't want to burden their heirs with,
Mm.
who their heirs might not have anything at all to do with the music world and the music industry. And the music industry it's a hard business. It's a tough business, and it's a real business to know. So it's not likely that a John Oates's progeny are going to necessarily either be interested in or be expert in
Mm.
dealing with the music publishing business. So it behooves a fellow like John Oates or Springsteen or whoever else has sold their catalog, Billy Joel, I guess. Um,
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it probably saves them a lot of grief, or it saves the kids a lot of grief. I don't know. Fortunately, I don't have that problem to deal with.
Yeah, I know Sting sold his entire catalog for 300 million or whatever to UMG or BMG or one of those, and I don't
Yeah,
know understand why. It makes no sense to me. I mean, weren't you looking after your money? It's controversy, I think. Weren't you looking after your money? Shouldn't you have hundreds of millions of dollars to your music
one
now?
would one would think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they do that, I wonder, do they still get any kind of royalties from? I guess not. Is that how
Mm,
does that work?
I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting. That's a podcast in its own, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and there, I mean, because there are two sets of royalties. There's the royalty on the songs themselves, the song contained in the recording, and then there's a royalty for the recording
mm,
itself. So maybe they still get the royalties for the recording, because in
I'm
Europe
not
and
sure. That's an interesting thought.
yeah,
So that when people in the UK were playing your music, do they have to have a license to play it? And did they come to you for that?
well, they did not have to have a special license to play it. Generally, the way that works is that the venues will purchase a license, an annual
Mm.
blanket license with the performing rights organization.
Mm.
And in this case, it was a concert hall, I guess, I forget. But they would have paid. They would have purchased a license from a performing rights organization, and in that case, then they can play anything that uh, uh, performing rights organization manages. Um, that's how that works. So they don't need special permission. Yeah, it makes it much easier for people to perform your music, and I want people to perform my music, so I want to make it as easy as possible. So that's how that works.
Yeah. What would some like if a little kid or whoever came up to you and says, I want to do what you do, um, like how what advice would you give to that young musician? They want to build a sustainable career in music. which I
Yeah.
don't think you can do today. But
Well, yeah. I mean, let's tackle that question second. But so, what would I tell? I think I'd probably tell them two things. One would be to study with someone who knows what they're doing. Study with a master musician. That's letter A, and letter B is practice your tail off.
hmm.
You know, I heard somebody talking the other day about talent. People saying um, this person's so talented and that person's so talented. Whatever, and to a great extent, talent has to do with how much you've practiced. Certainly you have to have abilities,
Hmm.
innate, God-given abilities, but there's a lot to practice. Doing something. What is that bit about doing something 40,000 times or whatever that number is? I
Yeah.
don't. Um, yeah, so that's what I would tell a young person. Study with a master, because the whole idea of the conservatory, is we're conserving the art, and a lot of music has to do with an oral tradition, and it's passing it down from teacher, master to student, and then practicing a lot what that teacher tells you to study, to practice.
So if Mr. or Dr. Louis DeLise went back in time,
Yes,
what advice would you give your younger self, and what would it be?
practice more, and don't watch the Flintstones, and especially don't watch the Three Stooges. So,
Yeah, it's funny.
but yeah, I think probably just practice more. Really, uh,
Yeah, that's good advice.
yeah, I think so. I think so. Um, there was another part to that. I forget where you went with that question. I was going to give you a second part of an answer.
Yeah, I would say I said if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, and that would be
Practice
practice
more.
more. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably it. Yeah,
Yeah.
this
That'd
is
be
fun,
awesome.
Chris.
I
This is
love it.
good. You're
So
good. You're good at this, man. You have good questions.
thank you so much. You might
Yeah.
like these next two, last
Uh
two.
oh. Okay.
No, I think you'll be fine. So what's next for you, Lewis? Like any upcoming projects or collaborations we should look forward to?
Well, yeah. Thank goodness there's always something next. So I'm presently. I just finished composing. I think I just finished composing a multi-movement piece for solo harp,
Mm-hmm.
and the next big thing with that is working with the harpist to refine my vision and make sure everything is playable, and then record that piece with her. So that's one thing. And then I'm writing a piece for solo clarinet and string orchestra.
Mm,
I have one movement complete for that, and I'm going to begin the second movement presently. They're very very
nice.
soon. Yeah. So those are two big projects I'm working on, and I have
That's
a
awesome.
couple little things too. But
I love that. Yeah, my
yeah.
listeners would like to know where they can connect with you and learn more about your work.
Well, uh, like everybody else, I have a website, and it's easy. It's my name. It's Louis Louis Anthony Anthony DeLise DeLise.com. LouisAnthonyDeLise.com. And there's all kinds of propaganda about me and my music and stuff. And then to just hear my music, any of the streaming services have my albums.
Hmm.
So Pandora, which I love, but they're just in the States. They're not in Canada, I don't think. And Spotify and all the rest, Amazon have my stuff, and that's always just under my name. So
Yeah. You sent me some links I'll put into the description.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone, everything about Louis DeLise will be in the description and all his
Thank
links
you.
so we can get the music and everything.
Yeah.
And hopefully, yeah, this is a
Yeah.
great interview. Thank you so
And,
much, Louis.
oh, my
Appreciate it.
pleasure. And listen to your listeners and viewers. I mean, if you like something, please let me know. It'll make my day, believe me. And like it and follow me and all that other nice stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty accessible by email and stuff too. So
Yeah. And we'll actually, hopefully, that people will comment on this video when it's released and that you will respond to something.
absolutely. If somebody comments, I will respond.
Thank you so much, Louis.
My
Really appreciate it. And
my
say hi to John for me because I really appreciate this interview
yeah,
and
I will.
really wonderful. And thank you so much for your comment. I try my best. I want to give interviews of a lifetime. I want to be
Yeah.
like Dan Rather, Barbara Walters. I want to be like them.
Well, you're doing a very good job. I can say I've done a number of this kind of internet interview, and this is one of the better ones. So bravo.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Louis.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to end this stream. Wait right there, ducked. And bye, everyone. See you, Louis.
Thank you, Chris. Bye now. But you can see, big computer, all kinds of
Wow.
monitors, multi-track tape.
I love it. You got some old stuff there. Wow.
I do, old and new. Yeah, the 16 track is, I keep it, I call it a paperweight at this point, but it's good for some things. And I have lots of recordings archived on the multi.
Wow. That's great. I love it.
But nowadays it's all computer stuff. And, right now I have a program up there called Finale, which is a notation program for something I'm writing. And then we use a digital recording, which you're familiar with, of course, a DAW. And I happen to use Digital Performer for my stuff, for my work.
Wow.
Let me just do this.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it works. It works great. Now,